Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss lecture number 17, shaded pole induction motor. The shaded pole induction motor is very popular for the rating below 0.5 horsepower or 40 watts because it is extremely simple in construction. So let us discuss about its construction first. It has salient poles on the stator excited by single phase supply and a squirrel gauge rotor. Its construction is like squirrel gauge rotor. This is rotor, and the stator is salient. The stator is like salient pole stator. There is one copper coil here, which is known as shading coil. This is the major difference in construction. A portion of each pole is surrounded by a short circuited ton of copper strip known as shading coil. This is the important feature incorporated in the shaded pole induction motor. Now, how it works? The operation of the motor can be understood by referring the figure 1.8b. Figure 1.8b is shown here. This is the AC supply given to the shaded pole induction motor. It is divided into three curves. The portion is one is OA, one is AB, and the other one is BC. So let us see how it works in these three regions. Number 1. During the portion OA, in an alternating cycle, the flux begins to increase and EMF is induced in the shading coil. The resulting current in the shading coil will be in such a direction it opposes to the change in the flux. Thus, the flux in the shaded pole is weakened. While that in the unshaded pole is strengthened, as shown in the figure. So here we can see that in the unshaded portion the flux lines are more, and in the shaded portion the flux lines are less. So this is the basic difference, and this curve is shown with the OA portion of this curve, supply curve. During the portion AB of the alternating cycle, the flux has reached almost the maximum value and it is not changing. Therefore, the flux distribution across the pole remains uniform, since no current is flowing in the shading coil. As the flux decreases in the portion BC, the current induced in the shading coil is so as to oppose the decrease in the current. Therefore, the flux in the shading coil is strengthened, while that in the unshaded coil it is weakened. So in the portion BC, the reverse operation of OA is happening. We see in the OA portion, the flux lines of unshaded portion are high. Here in curve BC, the flux lines in the shaded portion is high because the current is decreasing, and the work of the shading coil is to oppose the decrease in the current, and therefore the flux lines, it tries to increase the number of flux lines, and consequently the number of flux lines is high in the shading coil. During the flux line in the shaded pole is therefore strengthened, while that in the unshaded pole is weakened. The effect of shading coil is to cause the field flux to shift across the pole faces from unshaded portion to the shaded portion. This is the major principle how it works. The effect of shading coil is to cause the field flux to shift across the pole faces from unshaded portion to shaded portion. This shift in the flux is like rotating weak magnetic field in the direction from unshaded portion to the shaded portion of the pole. Thus, The rotor of the squirrel gauge type is under the influence of this moving field, and a very small starting torque is developed. As soon as this torque starts rotor to revolve, additional torque is provided by the single phase induction motor action, and then the motor starts accelerating to a high speed below the synchronous speed. So this is all about the operation of shaded pole induction motor. The important characteristic of the shaded pole induction motor is it is quite simple in construction. However, the centrifugal switch is absent because the running and starting operation is done by the shaded pole. The disadvantage is that the starting torque remains quite low and its efficiency is also quite low because the power factor remains low, therefore losses are high and efficiency is low. Applications: this motor can be used for low power application, for example small fans, toys, hair dryers, desk fans, etc. The power rating of such motor is up to 30 watt. So this is all about this lecture, and thank you for listening. Thank you very much.